Although you can't be a writer without writing, there's more to life if you want to be a great writer. Some of these 6 things might seem unrelated, but I promise that if you want to be a better writer, you are going to need them. If you came here looking for writing tips, I think instead you should be doing writing exercises, and I actually happen to have a free collection, so check it out. By the way, if you're new here, hi, I'm Katri, I'm your new writing bestie, and this is Protagonist Crafts, the place for people who are kind of obsessed with that whole writing thing. Welcome! Yay! And now that you're here, do subscribe, because I've got many wonderful videos about the world of writing and about being a writer. And if you like cats, you will frequently see them in my videos, and unfortunately you will also see them if you don't like them. Let's begin. So let's get the most obvious one out of the way. Read. If you don't have the time to read, you don't have the time or the tools to write. It's as simple as that, and even Stephen King knows that. But what should you actually read to become a better writer? Well, if you ask me, anything and everything. Yes, there are still people who think that you need to read the classics to become a great writer, but unfortunately that isn't all that it takes. Yes, reading things like Austen and Dickens has its benefits, but there are a lot of things in classic novels that just don't apply when you're writing for modern readers. Read new books. Read old books. Reread your favorites. Read books that you hate. Read instruction manuals. Read newspapers. Read other people's diaries. Read memoirs. Read anything that you can. And whatever you are reading, analyze it for what works and what doesn't work, what inspires you, what makes you feel flat. And save up things here in your big head for future inspiration. And yes, you should definitely also be reading books about the craft of writing. I've heard opinions that as long as you write a lot and you read fiction, then you don't need craft books, but I would disagree. Just having a feel that something does or doesn't work isn't enough. You need to know why. And one of my lights stopped working again. I need to ask Santa Claus to bring me a proper light. Anyway, there's a lot of things that you need to dissect in order to write good fiction, and then if you don't know how to do that yourself, someone else has done it. And you can be like, oh yes, well now I understand why I struggled with this part of writing so much. You get the tools for making it work. And yeah, I suppose watching someone's amazing YouTube videos is also incredibly helpful. But even someone as, wonderful as me isn't the expert of everything. So read books about writing written by different people to get multiple perspectives and learn as much as you can. If you'd like my list of my favorite books about writing, check out the description. And the second thing that will make you a better writer is listen other people's life stories. If you want to draw inspiration from other people's life stories, you don't even need to go to a library and borrow this massive biography. What is that? Sunlight in November in Finland. What is happening? I can't see my notes now. I've gone blind. The world is full of documentaries and reality TV shows and, I don't know, like TikTok story times that can show you how other people live and what they've been doing. The people who say that reading classics is the only way to become a great writer are probably the same people who would say that only watching things with great cultural value is beneficial to your writing. Well, I would say that those people are probably terribly boring. And I'm saying this as a person whose idea of a good time is going grocery shopping, so I'm not exactly the type of person who people describe as fun at parties. Yes, watching old French movies and learning about the history of oil paints are important and beneficial things to do. But sometimes the best way to study characters is to watch an entire season of 90 Day Fiancé. Although that show might be completely scripted these days, but you can still inspect it for how they've created a story arc for each couple. And yes, do pick up memoirs and biographies when you get the chance. Even better if they're written by people who you don't know anything about and who have very different lives from yours. And also, I'd like to remind you that there are real people out there in the world, in the wild. I love it when someone starts telling me something about something that, is not relevant to me at all, something that I have no experience or interest in. I'm still like, oh yes, I'm taking notes about this. Please tell me all about your judo training days. I might use this somewhere or I might not. Please, go on. I am far from being bored. People who have interests that are different from mine, please lecture me about them. I'm here for the TED Talk. Do you have a PowerPoint presentation? I would like to see it. But yeah, go talk to your grandma and ask what was she up to when she was 17. Go to a coffee shop and listen what are they talking about in a different table. Most importantly, never discount someone's story as uninteresting. You never know when you might need that. All of it is material. And speaking of material, this next point is going to be helpful for that as well, which is learn new things. And I personally don't think there are many things quite as exciting as learning new skills. And you don't need to agree, but learning new stuff is still very useful for your writer's brain and, any brain actually. If you're very busy, you might not want to take up an entirely new hobby, but you could still try something new for a day or two. There are plenty of tutorials for everything on YouTube, so knock yourself out. You will feel more creative. It will be helpful for your creative thinking, but like I said, it can also be material. People love to read about competent characters, so if you're good at something, then you can use that in your story. And even if you're not good at something, even if you completely fail at making your first vase, then you can also use that in your story. It will make it more believable when it's something that has actually happened to you and you know exactly what it's like when the clay is splattering everywhere. I mean, few things are more annoying when a writer has clearly made everything up and they haven't even bothered looking up the proper terminology of whatever it is that they're writing. And my next tip is connect with other writers. So writing generally is a solitary activity, but it doesn't have to be that all the time. You don't even need to go to a writing group if you don't have one near you. I definitely don't unless I start one. No, actually I tried to start one. We had 2 meetings. There were 2 people both times. And by 2 people, I mean me and this old guy. But anyway, if that's not your thing, you don't need to do that. You can always go on social media. Perhaps Instagram or Tumblr, where you can find other writers. It's helpful to know people who are struggling, or triumphing with the same things as you are. But also, if you befriend writers who are where you are in your writing journey, you can, you could be critique partners, for example, exchange writing and give each other feedback. If you were both self-publishing, for example, you could give each other tips for, stuff, things like that. And my 5th tip is go outside. If you're already outside, congratulations, well done. But yeah, I live in a country that is covered in yucky snow for about half of the year, and most of the time I want nothing to do with it. I mean, it's nice before Christmas, but anywhere from Christmas to April, just no thanks. But still, leaving your house, generally speaking, is a positive thing to do, assuming that it is safe to do so. If you can't physically leave your house, well, staring at the window can still be useful. And it's definitely better than staring at screens all day. You might already know that walking is good for your physical health, but it's actually good for your memory as well. Not to mention other important brain functions. And if you can manage a few minutes without pulling your phone out of your pocket, then being outside is a good way to spend some time with fewer distractions. You might even get an idea or 2. And I can't emphasize how important it is to spend some time every day without consuming any kind of content. Just be with your own thoughts. If you never do that and you struggle with writer's block, that might link these 2 things, 1 plus 1 might be perhaps 2. So please do yourself a favor and try it out. It can actually help with your sleep as well. And then lastly, take care of your body. I don't mean body, I mean body, your physical flesh prison. We all experience health to different degrees, but looking after your body to the extent that you can is also important to your writing. I know there's a popular stereotype of writers living on nothing but black coffee or perhaps whiskey, but you're not doing yourself any kind of favors by doing that. Being a mess on purpose also doesn't make you a more interesting person, no matter what you may have been told before. Writers, myself included, also have a tendency to write hunched over our laptops or notebooks. That is also not very good for you. So taking care of ergonomic working positions and, getting up every now and then are very good things to do for your health. Stretching and strength training are a great way to ensure that your writing sessions aren't being thwarted by a sudden back spasm or perhaps your wrists going limp because they just didn't have any more strength. Do not neglect your body in favor of your writing, because your writing will also suffer. What kind of non-writing tips would you give your fellow writers? Let me know in the comments, and do remember to subscribe if you'd like to see more videos just like this one, except maybe even better ones.